just to point out a few things, inshallah. So the other space will be available for salah, but obviously that has to only happen when this space is full. This space has to be filled before we can expand to another space, obviously. That doesn't mean in the middle of prayer that you can't stay where you are. It's preferable if towards the 8th or 9th rak'ah, if you're up front and you intend to stay till the end, to come back if there's space here. Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. Now, I'll explain this again after Isha or before Isha for people to understand, because it's important they have clarity on it. So when it comes for the ma'moom to pray in front of the imam, not exactly, no one accepts that. We don't have that here. Standing up there, no one on the other side will be standing right in front of the imam. So that's not the case at all. But for them to be in a parallel manner, somewhere ahead, so they're not they're ahead of the line, the straight line that actually is where the imam's feet is going perpendicular to him, then there are opinions on the matter within the schools of jurisprudence. So the Malikiya have no problem with it. So Imam Malik rahmatullah alayh and his school of thought don't have a problem with it, especially if there's any reason for it. Imam al-Shafi'i, in his old opinion, is okay with it if there is reason, meaning if there's a darura, if the space that you are praying in is now packed and you need to kind of expand, and you can't expand backwards, you have to expand forwards. Imam Shafi'i, in his old opinion, is okay with it, and his new opinion isn't. Imam Ahmad has two opinions as well. The opinion that Ibn Taymiyyah has in his fatwa allows for this. Again, when there's when the area that you're going to be praying is full and you need to expand, you have no choice but to expand up front, then he's okay with that. Al-Hanafiya don't allow it regardless. So out of the four madhahib, we have one that accepts, and then two that is a 50-50, and then one that doesn't. That's more than enough evidence to allow us to expand comfortably and safely forward for people who like to pray, especially when it's a darura. I mean, we just don't have an option to do it any other way for now. So that's just the jurisprudence behind it. So you're welcome to use the space up front. The men will be on this side, on the far side from where I am. The ladies will be on the left side, the closer side here. There's a room for them specifically. The bathrooms that are right behind this wall are for the ladies. There are bathrooms on the other side of the wall. They are for men. So the bathrooms that are just right outside of the door there, those three bathrooms that are here for our sisters. And then on the other side, there are bathrooms that are for their brothers. So that's just a few housekeeping points. And then the last one is that we're going to try, to the best of our ability, to keep the hallway empty during prayer, if that's possible. Obviously, if we're packed, and then wherever we need to pray, we will pray. But if possible, we want to keep the hallway empty so it's easier for people to move, to go to the bathroom, so we have less ikhtilat and congestion at the doors. It's just an issue of flow and kind of respecting people's spaces. So if we can keep the hallway empty, that'll be optimal. If not, obviously, if the whole place is packed, then it's packed, and that's what we do. But we're going to try and keep it empty, inshallah. So I just wanted to kind of point that out. Moving forward, I just need someone to press the thing. Just move the slide. So inshallah, the series that I'm going to be covering this Ramadan is a little bit different than what I did last year or the year before and before and before. For the last 4 years, what I did is something called surah summaries, and they're all online right now, where I summarized each surah of the Quran in a lesson, like in one or two durus. And over 4 years before Ramadan, I went through the full Quran. Alhamdulillah, that was the biggest barakah. Over the last 4 years, I was able to do that. It's very meaningful to me as a person to be able to kind of summarize them and explain. They're available for anyone who wants to kind of listen to the summaries and understand a little bit of what the surah is talking about, what the theme is, what the point of the verses are altogether as a whole. What I'm going to do this year is not that far away. It's not that different, not far off, but a little bit adjusted. So instead of taking each surah and summarizing it, I'm going to put up there for you exactly what's going to be read that night. So tonight, we're going to start from Surat Al Baqarah, beginning of it, to ayah 153. And I wrote for you where Taraweeh begins. It begins from ayah 26. Now you're wondering why I did that. Because you shouldn't be holding a Quran or a phone during Isha. So if you follow along, which I encourage, just so you don't misunderstand, I actually encourage you to do this. If you're not hafiz, you don't know the Quran by heart, feel free to hold the Quran and follow along in Taraweeh. There's really nothing wrong with that. It's actually something that'll keep you focused and it's helpful for you. But don't do it during Isha. Isha is fard. We just stay focused with the Imam. So I'll always put for you where the Taraweeh begins, so you know where Taraweeh starts, just in case you get lost. And then what I'll do at the beginning of each night is I'll tell you quickly what the theme of the surahs or the surah that's going to be recited that night is, and then I'll choose certain verses. And I put a lot up there. by no means am I going to be able to talk about all of them at all. But I'll try to get through a couple. And then if this works and you find this beneficial, then next year we'll try and get through the ones that I didn't get through this year. And that doesn't mean that the rest of the verses in the surah are not worth reciting. Obviously, all of the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is of interest and is of beauty. And all of the, and actually I could easily choose way more than this. I'm just picking a verse and wanting to kind of explain it to you and bring it closer to you. But all of the Quran is extremely worthy of reflection and contemplation and tafsir. And honestly, I could put any number up there and still talk about it and enjoy talking about it. But I just made some choices for the benefit, inshallah, of what I think people will want to know or should know at this point. The way I'll do it is that I'll talk about the theme, and then someone will volunteer to recite the verse that's up there, because I don't have them written. And then if you have a phone or something, you can kind of go along with me. And once they're being recited in Taraweeh, you have something to reflect upon, or you remember that verse was talked about beforehand. So that's the plan, inshallah, moving forward. So every night, if you come a little bit early, you'll get basically a little bit of a preview of what's going to be recited in Taraweeh, and I'll reflect on some verses with you, so you have some idea about some tafsir of some of these surahs, of these ayat, and hopefully that will help enhance your experience of attending Taraweeh and listening to the Quran being recited. The plan will be to make adhan al-isha once it's time, and then we make adhan right away, iqamah right away, we pray isha, we give a few seconds or a few minutes just to pray sunnah, and then we start with Taraweeh, inshallah. We'll do 10 rak'at, 10 rak'at of Taraweeh, and then 2 of shafa', and then the final 13 will be khatam, will be witr, sorry. Now the 12th, the 11th and 12th rak'ah, you can intend them Taraweeh, it's not a problem. I get this question every year, so I just want to make sure. So sunnah, you can combine 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and a million intentions together. Fard, you can't. Fard is fard, you just make the intention of isha, it's over. And it's the most valuable prayer of tonight, by the way. Isha is the most important prayer of tonight, just like Fajr is for tomorrow. But when you're praying sunnah, you can actually combine all of these intentions. So you can combine the intention of praying Taraweeh and shafa' for watr in the same intention. That's not a problem at all. Meaning you end up winning more hasanat by doing that if you want to. Okay, so the first juz' that we're going to be reciting tonight, we do a juz' in a page, and the reason we do a juz' in a page because we're going to end the Quran, or we're going to do the khatam, recite the last part of the Quran on the 29th night of Ramadan. So we have to push ourselves a little bit forward. We can't do just one juz' because there's 30 juz' in the Quran. It's all in Surat Al Baqarah. It's all within Surat Al Baqarah. And tomorrow, just as a spoiler alert, also all in Surat Al Baqarah. Surat Al Baqarah is the longest surah in the Quran, and it's around 2.5 juz', roughly. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose to put it at the beginning of the Quran because it does serve an extremely important purpose. Surat Al Baqarah explains what this story is about. It tells you what this system of life is, why it's there, what your role is, who did it well before, who didn't do it too well, and what the rulings, or what the mechanics, or what this mechanism of life is going to look like in terms of rulings. That's why Surah Al Baqarah, you'll find at the beginning of it, you have this small introduction, and then right after that, you're going to have a definition of who Adam was, and then it talks about Bani Israel, and it talks about Ibrahim alayhi salam, because Bani Israel are the example of people who didn't do this well, but Ibrahim is the example of someone who perfected it. Adam was the first, and then after that, we just have verses upon verses that talk about teachings. That's why in these verses in Surah Al Baqarah, you're going to find talking about siyam, and hajj, and salah, and zakah, and riba, and talaq, and zawaj, and everything is going to be covered, because Surah Al Baqarah said, here's your way of life. Here's how it started, here's what you should be doing, and here are the rulings that will allow you to actually practice this properly. And then the continuation of the Quran allows for that story to continue. So the beauty of the Quran is that the surahs themselves, the way they are designed and then put in a row, tell a story. Like the surahs themselves, this is like the zooming out aspect of seeing the Quran. So you're not just reading the verses that kind of flow and tell a story. If you zoom out and just look at the surahs themselves and what their themes are telling a story too. If you're able to kind of see it take a step back, which I'll try and help you see. So ayah number 30. Can someone, you hold this and then you can try and do it for me. And you have one? Okay, good. So recite for me ayah number 30 in Surah Al Baqarah, and I'll tell you what this is. Quickly though, this has to be like really quick.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإذ قال ربك للملائكة إني جاعل في الأرض خليفة قالوا أتجعل فيها من يفسد فيها ويسفك الدماء ونحن نسبح بحمدك ونقدس لك قال إني أعلم ما لا تعلمون يعلمون.
Jazakallah khair. And I'll give opportunities to people to recite the verses as well, yani, so there's a little bit more participation. So right off the bat in the Quran, just after you have this very short introduction to the Quran, a really short 29 verses at the beginning of the Quran, in Surat Al Baqarah, there are introduction to the whole Quran, tells you the story of everything basically, and those will take a long time for me to explain, so I'm going to just skip them for time. Then right after that introduction, the first verse, Allah gets to the point immediately. And He tells you, and when I told the Malaika, when your Lord told the Malaika, He was going to put on earth a steward, a Khalifa. So immediately everyone got a little bit answered, what do you mean? Why? Are they able to do this? Can they actually speak on your behalf? Can they actually behave on your behalf? Do they have the capacity to do such a thing? They got very scared. They were a bit, they weren't clear. Iblis said no altogether, but the Malaika even had some questions of why, and who are they? And this is the verse that defines you and I. Like right at the beginning of the Quran, Surat Al Baqarah, you're defined. You and I are given a role immediately. You're a Khalifa, you're a steward, you're a caregiver. You're responsible for this earth on behalf of God Himself. So when you speak, when you walk, when you behave, whatever it is you do, you are doing it on behalf of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself. You know, the beautiful part of this is, well, why? Why did He choose, why would He choose them? Choose the human beings. So if you go through the verses, you'll find after the Malaika basically, showed a little bit of doubt or doubted the ability of Adam, and Allah told them, I know what you do not know. What did He do immediately with Adam alayhi salam? What was the verse right after that? What did He do for Adam? وَعَلَّمَ. He taught Adam. He proved that Adam was teachable. It's their capacity of gaining knowledge. It's the capacity of learning that made Adam alayhi salam the proper candidate to be the steward of this earth. Because when He taught Adam, الأسماء كلها, He called the Malaika, He told them, Adam, أنبئهم بأسمائهم. Tell them that when He told them, when they saw how quickly Adam picked up and learned and expanded his horizon, was now capable of communication, understood things, they quieted down. Okay, this creation is different. So you are the steward of the earth. Beginning of the Quran, ayah number 30 of Surat Al Baqarah, like literally just after the introduction. Every surah has an introduction. Surat Al Baqarah 29 verses, introduction right off immediately. Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. You're going to be a steward. Based on what? وَعَلَّمَ Adam. He taught him, and Adam learned. Yes, he made a mistake, alayhi salam. But that's not a problem because that mistake was predestined for him to make. It's a part of a larger story. But Adam is capable of learning. And as long as Adam is capable of learning, then Adam will find his way back. And that's why our deen began with the word what? Iqra. Learn. That's what actually Iqra means. It means to learn, but it's a much more profound word than learn. Ta'allam is specific. Iqra is much more broad in what it actually means. It means analyze and observe and benefit and think and reflect and contemplate and pick up experience. It means all of that put together. So this verse at the beginning of the Quran is extremely important because it's telling you exactly who you are. And there's no time delay. It's not being given here, read through the Quran for a couple of ajza. No. Here's a quick introduction, and then you're a Khalifa. And the reason is because you can learn. So the moment you stop learning, the moment you lose the capacity to educate yourself, you don't have the ability to expand your horizons or learn, then you cease to be able to actually be what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created you to be. So I want to share that with you, inshallah, because it's a very important ayah. This tells the story from the beginning. Adam was taught and Adam learned. Yes, he made a mistake, but Adam learned. And that's the secret of what Adam alayhi salam was able to do. That's why the Malaika, once they قال يا آدم أنبئهم بأسمائهم فلما أنبأهم بأسمائهم قال ألم أقل لكم. Once he showed that Adam could teach, he understood, he learned, he told them, didn't I tell you? I know the unseen of the heavens, the cosmos and the earth, and I know what you hide and what you don't say. The Malaika didn't come back and say, well, no offense, but what's the... So he knows some words, but no, they understood. Malaika understood the value of Adam learning. They understood, okay, so he's capable of adapting. He can receive revelation. He can actually observe and learn from experiences, so he can actually be a steward. He can take care of things because he makes a mistake once, he won't make it a million times afterwards because he was able to see it. Can someone read the ayah after that, please?
أتأمرون الناس بالبر وتنسون أنفسكم وأنتم تتلون الكتاب أفلا تعقلون.
So ayah number 44 in Surat Al Baqarah, as it tells the story of Bani Israel. Like I said, there's going to be parts of the story that Adam was the first Khalifa, and the Bani Israel didn't do a very good job at it. They made a lot of mistakes. Not so that we can shame them with it, but so that we can learn not to do the same mistakes. Amongst the mistakes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pointed out was this very scary verse for all of us. أَتَأْمُرُونَ النَّاسَ بِالْبِرِّ وَتَنْسَوْنَ أَنفُسَكُمْ. You're going to go around commanding people to be pious, to be good, to be virtuous, to behave in their proper manner and to have the best character. And you hold people accountable to the smallest mistake and to every shortcoming. And if they're not behaving exactly the way they should behave at all times, you're immediately critical of what they do. وَتَنْسَوْنَ أَنفُسَكُمْ. And you don't do that to yourself. Like you're not holding yourself to that standard. You go around commanding people to live to a certain standard that you have no interest of living to. This is just so that other people can do it. أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. Do you have no logic at all? Do you not understand or comprehend anything at all? أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. One of the scariest verses in the Quran. By far one of the scariest verses, especially for people like me who do what I do. Because the fear of telling someone or advising someone or encouraging someone to do something and you're not doing it yourself. You're not holding that standard yourself. Be very, very careful of that. Doesn't mean you can't give advice. Just be very careful. Think long and hard before you critique someone or before you criticize someone's behavior, before you hold them accountable to a certain thing that they did that you don't think. Think about yourself. Are you holding yourself to that same standard? Or is that because that's where hypocrisy begins. That's why this verse came at the beginning of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unpacking that idea. That's how hypocrisy starts. When I start holding you accountable for something that I'm not going to do. I'll do in the background. I'll make halal for myself something that I'll make haram for you. How dare you? Is that what the ayah is saying? I know it sounds, but that's what the ayah is saying. How dare you? Go and command people to be virtuous and you forget yourself. وَأَنْتُمْ تَتْلُونَ الْكِتَابِ. And you're reciting the book. And you're reading the book in front of you. You're going to read the book, tell people to do something, and you're not going to do it yourself. أعوذ بالله. أفلا تعقلون. The verses after that in the story of the cow, I'm not going to ask them to read because you know this, know these verses of the surah is called Al Baqarah, and it's called Al Baqarah because it tells within the surah it tells us the story of the cow, the story of Al Baqarah. What's the story of Al Baqarah? It's very important. It's an extremely important Islamic concept that I want you to learn. Musa alayhi salam told his people, اذبحوا بقرة. Someone had died, someone was murdered. They woke up in the morning and found someone murdered in his bed. He was killed because someone had slit his throat. So they asked Musa alayhi salam, who did this? It was a very important person or had a lot of status, so they were very upset and they wanted to know who did it. So Musa alayhi salam turned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in dua, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him, tell them to slaughter a cow, and then to take one of the cow's bones and to tap the man with it, and he would get up. And he would tell them who killed him. So he told them, اذبحوا بقرة. So they started asking questions. First of all, they thought he was joking around. And he told them no. So they asked him, well, tell us what type of cow. So he started to explain to them what type of cow. They asked him 3 times. They asked him 3 times to explain the cow. And the more they asked, the more detail they were given, until it became really hard to find a cow that fits the description that Musa alayhi salam had come up with. Here's the point of Surat Al Baqarah, this story. So you understand, because the moral of the story here is actually lost for most people. The moral of the story is that they shouldn't have asked any of those questions. He told them to slaughter a cow. Now, yes, at the end, the description was it had to be a yellow cow that was neither old nor too young. It was not worked on in the earth. There was no physical deficits in the way it looks or problems. All these descriptions. It was hard to find one like that. But when he told them, اذبحوا بقرة, slaughter a cow. Had they slaughtered any cow, anyone, any cow, as long as it wasn't a donkey, or a mule, or something, it would be fine. Then the whole thing would have worked out perfectly. But they didn't, and they kept on asking, and what they got was the optimal description, like the best type of cow to slaughter in this situation. But had they at the beginning slaughtered a black and brown cow that was extremely old and spent all of its life working, it would have sufficed. It would have been enough. But they didn't. What's the point of the story? This is how our deen is built. Yes, sometimes there's the best case scenario. But within Islam, the capacity of doing different things is there. Meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala designed the deen in a way where there's more than one thing that you can do that can be right. Sometimes, yes, there's an optimal. There's the perfect way of doing things, but then there's a bunch of other stuff that if you do, you're fine. As long as you stay within the boundaries of what Islam is. Islam is not a line that you have to, it's not a tightrope that you have to walk. It's a river that you swim in. So I may be swimming here and you may be right over there. So we're not exactly in the same spot, but we're still within Islam. As long as not outside of the banks, running on the land outside. So they were told, اذبحوا بقرة. Any baqarah would have been fine, but no. No, they wanted to make it hard for themselves, so Allah made it hard for them. They kept on asking. They got the answer. Yes, this is the best. You look for the best. It was really hard for them. It took them a while to find it. It all worked out the way Allah told them to, but that's the point of this story. Any cow would have sufficed. So when Allah gives you a command, yes, my job is to explain to you the range of what is acceptable. That's my job. And it's your job to choose where you're going to hold yourself. It's your job to choose where you want to be. Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to aim for that which is best, something a little bit less? You're okay on the lenient side? That's your job. My job is not to tell you what Musa told his people. I don't do that. I don't come and tell you. It has to be بقرة لا فارض ولا بكر عوان صفراء فاقع لونها لا يعني لا ذلول تثير الحرث ولا تسقي الحرث تثير الأرض ولا تسقي الحرث مسلمة لا شية فيها. I don't have to do that for you. Now, if you want to do that yourself, that's totally your right. And may Allah bless you for doing it. But you can't hold people to it. You can't hold people. See, Bani Israel held themselves. They made a mistake. That's the whole point of the story. Don't do like Bani Israel. Don't do that. Don't ask the Prophet ﷺ to, don't leave it. If he gave you an open-end command, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala left things and he didn't talk about, it's for a reason. So scholars can later on come and set the range for you. The spectrum of what is acceptable. The spectrum of what is acceptable. And then you, as a Muslim, make the decision of what you want to do. How far are you going to go to achieve perfection versus how okay are you with some leniency? My job is not to hold you to that which is more conservative and that which is more difficult or to perfection. My job is to explain to you the leniency of it all. And then you do with that what you want. Once we flip that culture around, once you come to me looking for leniency and I try and make things difficult, we ruin Islam altogether. You ruin the deen completely. That's the beginning. That's the Niagara Fall of Islam. You keep on going down. My job is not to tell you perfection. My job is to show you what is acceptable, what's in the range of Islam. And then it's your job to protect your deen. It's your job to protect your deen. I'm not responsible for your deen. You don't come and ask me a question looking and say, oh, Sheikh, just give me a fatwa. What do you think this means? It's a joke. What do you think this means? If I tell you it's halal, you can do it, you can blame me? Wallahi miskeen if you think that's the case. If you think that you can blame someone Yawm al-Qiyamah, you can't. When you ask for a question in Islam and you ask for a fatwa, it's your job. When you listen to the answer, to actually look for the reasoning behind the answer. And to be, because you have to own it. You own this, not me. My job is to give you the different opinions. You have to own your choice. You can't blame this on anybody. Is that clear? This is very important in Islam. This is the point of this story. Islam is designed that way. There's going to be different ways. Baqarah, anything would have worked. Any color, green cow, black cow, white cow, old cow, young cow, all of it would have worked. Yes, there's the perfect type that Allah is looking for. That would get you the most ajr, but anything would have sufficed. My job is to figure those out, find them out, make sure I give you the answer, and then you either look for that one or you look for whatever you want. And there's no right and wrong, and it's none of my business, but it's completely yours. Can someone read Ayah 104 for me if you have a few more minutes?
يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تقولوا راعنا وقولوا انظرنا واسمعوا وللكافرين عذاب أليم.
This is the first command in terms of the sequence of the Quran. So if you open Surat Al-Fatiha and you start reading, the first time you'll find Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu is 104 in Surat Al Baqarah. So in my mind, there must be some significance to this verse because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making it the first one that you're going to come by as you're reciting and going through your khatma. This is the first time where Allah is going to call upon you specifically. Say, oh, those who believe. Oh, that's me. Inshallah. Inshallah, it's all of us. Yeah, that's what we're here. He's calling upon me. So what is it? لا تقولوا راعنا وقولوا انظرنا واسمعوا وللكافرين عذاب أليم. I'll explain this a little bit more when I talk in Surah An-Nisa because the verse there is a little bit more detailed. But here's what he's telling us to do or not to do. So don't say ra'ina. Don't come to the Prophet ﷺ and say, if you go to the country I come from, if you go and you shop in the market, this word is the most used word by far. Like this is the word that's all ra'ina, right? You come, how much is this? It's 3,000 lira. Ra'ina, meaning, give us less. And by the time you're done, you buy it for 50. Literally from 3,000 to 50, no problem. He still makes money off it. It's just how they work. So ra'ina means, can you lessen the, ra'ina is saying, don't say to the Prophet, lessen the commands. Bring it down a bit. No, too much. No, we don't want to do this. Oh, we have to dress like that. No, change that. Oh, we can't eat this. No, we don't want to do that. Let's get rid of it. No, don't say ra'ina. Don't come and bargain about what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded. وَقُولُوا انظُرْنَا. And say, give us time. Be patient with us, let us learn. Let us comprehend. Give us time to absorb. Give us time to understand. Help us along. Wasma'u. And say wasma'u. And say, listen to what we have to say. We have some struggles here. We have challenges. There are difficulties. I'm not clear on this. But don't come asking, don't come to Islam as it is. Come to Islam as it is. Come to Islam as you are. But come to Islam as it is, not as you want it to be. This is Islam. It's not going to change for me or you or anyone. So don't come say ra'ina. Just come and say, this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded. It's 5 prayers a day. It's the month of Ramadan Siyam. You're going to pay your zakah. You're going to dress in a certain way. You're going to speak in a certain way. There's certain values that we adhere to. Certain things are haram and certain things are obligatory. And that's how it is. Don't come and bargain about these things. But if you need time to learn or time to commit, or you're struggling, that's within your rights. Say, I need time, I need help. Wasma'u. And then command the person who's telling you to do this. Wasma'u. Listen to me. Listen to what I have to. If this is a one-way conversation, if I'm just, then nothing, this doesn't work. If the Imam just sits and speaks all the time, listens to nothing, is not willing to listen to the people that he's explaining things to, those who are in leadership positions aren't listening, then nothing works. It has to be to wasma'u. This is what the person who is being commanded to follow the word of Allah is saying back. They're saying, unzurna wasma'u. And we'll see that again in Surat An-Nisa. Give us some time and then listen to us because we need help as well. This is one of the most beautiful commands in the Quran because it gives us the attitude. This is the attitude. The attitude is we don't bargain with what Quran says. Khamr is haram. We don't bargain with that. I'm not going to change that. It's not going to change. Zina is haram. It's not changing. It doesn't matter what's happening in the world. That's what he taught subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's it. That's the line. So don't say ra'ina and look to change that, but say unzurna wasma'u. Say we need time. We need clarification. We need help. We need aid throughout the struggle. That's your right. The Sahaba took time. You think they went from one state to the other? No, it took time. Time before they actually arrived at a state where the Prophet ﷺ could pass away and they were able to continue this. It was 23 years of his life ﷺ invested in them. So why do we expect people to switch like that? That's not fair. That's not fair to ask people to do that. So when we come to masajid and you want to hold people to a certain standard based on what? Based on what? They just came here. They just started. As long as they're not telling me ra'ina, as long as they're coming and telling me let's change this whole system, then it's my job to make sure anzurhum. I give them time. Let them grow. Let them learn. Let them make mistakes. Protect them. Aid them. Support them. Help them along the journey. That's the goal. That's the point of all of this. Not to hold people to a standard when they don't meet it, you remove them. What is this? Well, because you're on the other side? Just because Allah gave you that head start and you're already well adversed in this, you're going to do that? That's not fair. And that's not acceptable Islamically either. Let's do one more and then we'll go for salah. Obviously, we're not going to get through anything. Does anyone else have?
وَإِذِ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ فَأَتَمَّهُنَّ قال إني جاعلك للناس إماما قال ومن ذريتي قال لا ينال عهد الظالمين.
And when Allah trialed and tested Ibrahim with words, meaning with commands and teachings, and Ibrahim perfected them. He completed all the tasks, all the trials, all of the exams he was given, alayhi salam. What did Allah tell him? قَالَ إِنِّي جَاعِلُكَ لِلنَّاسِ إِمَامًا. I'm going to make you an imam. Imam is the same meaning of khalifa. It's the same thing, the same idea. Same idea exactly. Imam means an exemplar. Someone who will lead by example. Not someone who will command from a booth behind. It's someone who's going to be right up front. Actually making the difference with their own behavior so people can follow along. Which is what a khalifa is. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the example of Ibrahim as someone who's going to be an imam. And when you hear the word imam, you think of someone up front here. The word imam is much more important than that. Honestly, it's a more broad word than that. We have taken it and kind of really fit it into like a specific stereotype or prototype where you're standing up front, you're leading prayer, and that's true. But really, the word is much bigger than that. Anyone who leads by example is an imam. You are required to be an imam. Everyone's required to be imam. You know what the funny part is? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to Ibrahim, إِنِّي جَاعِلُكَ لِلنَّاسِ imam. You're going to be to all people an imam. He died, alayhi salam, with the smallest number of followers of a prophet that we have recorded. Like he left, out of the prophets that didn't have their people punished, the one who passed away with the least number of people following them was Ibrahim. He was kicked out of every place he went. He did not have a large following when he died. So he had the smallest following, yet he was going to later on be the most followed human being on the planet. Till this day, what we have in common with all of the other faiths, Ibrahim, we all agree on Ibrahim, because he led by example. Because he was different. That's why the Prophet ﷺ is told, who do you follow? فَاتَّبِعْ مِلَّةَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ حَنِيفًا. You follow the way of Ibrahim. So the Prophet ﷺ, his idol, his example was Ibrahim ﷺ. And that's why it exists at the beginning of Surat Al Baqarah. So obviously we're not going to get through many of these on any of these nights, but that's all right. We'll try to do that. So every night I will put it up, whatever we're going to be reading here, and I'll explain the theme, and I'll go through whatever verses I'm capable of going through, inshallah, throughout the night. This is the beginning. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the blessing of this month. Allahumma ameen. May Allah, alhamdulillah, He granted us the beginning of it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the ability to get through the totality of it and to reap the rewards that exist at the end of Ramadan. Allahumma ameen. All of us together, inshallah, as a group. Ramadan is a beautiful time. I hope, inshallah, that you find the joy, the serenity, the tranquility, the closeness, the barakah that Ramadan brings to all of us, and that we're able to experience it as a group. This will require all of us to work together, to be patient with each other, to overlook some of the mistakes that occur, work together in calmness and in peace, so that we can keep this going, and everyone, inshallah, enjoys the experience with Allah Ta'ala. So just that as a final piece, inshallah. We're going to make adhan, and right after adhan we'll make iqamah, and we'll begin bi-iznillah ta'ala the prayer. Jazakumullah khairan wa barakallahu feekum. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على